Alright, what's up guys? I wanted to quickly make a video about something that kind of is going to be like my last thing when it comes to tech. So, first thing I want to talk about is just the how to deal with the jump-ins, or just kind of an idea that I've thought about. I've talked about it before. Basically, what you want to do is, I've been watching a lot of pros lately, and what I've been watching them do is, even when they play characters with very low profiling anti-airs, what they do is, they wait for the jump in to come, and then if it's an overhead jump in, they excuse me, they duck it. So let me have her do an overhead jump in. So as you see there, like if it's a higher jump in, Katana ducks it. And the thing is, if you actually learn how to not only flawless block, but try to do 2 up, which is the main way that you OS jump ins. So for example, let me set Katana to do, where is it? Button log, there we go. So if you practice doing 2 up, oh my gosh, come on, there we go. There we go. So if you practice doing 2 up, what will happen is, Katana is blessed because her 2, if you see her standing 2 is plus 13. So it means you pretty much get your turn back. See? Like, so Frost can't really do a early jump kick because she's basically giving her turn up, right? See, I'm plus 13. Like, my 13 frame mid comes out in 0 frames, right? Or they can't respawn. It doesn't come out in 0 frames. I always say that. Basically, they can't really respond to anything because they're minus 13. So as you see there, and then when they do a late jump kick, you flawless block it. Come on. Come on, there we go. I'm trying to do 2 up. No. There we go. Come on, Ops. There we go. So as you see there, I'm doing 2 up, right? Which causes Frost to basically you're OSing both options, right? Because one option, you're getting your turn back. The other option, you're flawless blocking it, right? See, like here, and if I set it to random, you should be able to do both, right? So like, come on. Oops. This is so hard to do, it's gonna lead into my last kind of part of this video. But there you go, so there. There we go. Did it again. Sometimes you'll knock them down, but it's better than getting jumped on, which is kind of what I want to talk about. So, as you see, you can flawless block the late one and stand to the early one. And obviously, like, once they start doing that, they're going to start doing empty jump down 2, right? So let's say they start doing empty jump down 2, right? Oops. Sorry, I'm not using my regular control. There we go. So, say they do empty jump down 2. You're gonna get down 2k beat. Why is she not down 2k being? Down 2k beat me. There we go. See? Because now they're responding to your your stand 2, right? Even if you do stand 2-1, they can empty jump down to you. So when they start doing that, that's when you start doing just a stand 1 anti-air, right? Which is free. So basically, the mind game here, you can even do down 3, like Katana has the down 3 anti-air, or down 1 anti-air. So the mind game here is, it's a 3-way mind game, pretty well. Technically, it's a 2-way, but it could be a 3-way, right? So the 3-way mind game behind it is, if they do a late jump in, you'll OS the late jump in and the early jump kick, right? And with the early jump kick, you'll get a stand 2, which will take your turn back. So basically, it'll prevent your opponent from jumping at you with early jump kicks. Now, if they do a late jump kick, you'll flawless block up to it, and you'll get your combo with 1 bar of defense, 1 bar of offense. Now, if they do a empty jump down 2, your option is to straight up anti-air them, right? Because they don't have a jump kick that you have to respect because of the active frames of the jump kick. Now, the other option they have, which is even worse, is they have, if they start seeing you're flawlessing everything, they could do a normal jump in. So you try to flawless, right? And you try to flawless and you press a button and you get hit, right? Now, in theory, you could react to when the jump kick or jump punch or whatever comes out. In theory, you can. And you can flawless that way. But I don't think that works out as well as people think it does, because, you know, if you look at the jump-ins, like, I think, Frost is a good example. Hers comes out in 8 frames. So, I mean, unless you're going to react to an 8-frame jump-in, it's going to be pretty hard to kind of respect or to respond immediately, right? Like, there's a chance that... But the thing is, though, if you're flawless up-2ing... So, like, if you're flawless up-2ing the late jump... Yeah, you gotta be careful of that, too. But if you're flawlessing the late jump, right? There's a chance that you actually won't flawless up-2, right? You actually just block the jump-in punch, or whatever. Now, the answer to that is that jump-ins usually are easy to anti-air, right? It's not the jump-ins that are the problem, it's the jump kicks that are the problem. Now, there are some jump-ins that are dumb as hell. Like, one, for example, is Katana's jump punch. Katana's jump punch is a true jump kick from basically this height. Hold on. There we go. There we go. So see how it's like a true jump kick, right? Because if I stand up and I try to anti-air it, I'm gonna get hit. It's no different than a jump kick, basically, if you look at it. Right? Because if you low profile it, you get a combo. See how I'm low profiling it? Or if you flawless block early. Right? Or if you duck it, you duck flawless block like I was just showing, then it goes over your head, right? So, this is why Katana players jump at you all day, because it's literally a guessing game if she's going to combo you or not, because she does an early one, there's a chance that you'll get full combo punished trying to anti-air. But if she does a late one and you try to duck the early one, expecting her to do it, I actually did this. This caused me to lose against this one guy, because this is why I'm making this video, and I'll get to that in a minute. This is a long-ass video, but it's important to kind of understand jump-ins in MK11, because it's one of the main reasons you're probably losing, like, straight up. But anyway, so, you know, I was playing against this guy, and the reason why I'm making this video is strictly because when I was playing against his Katana, he was flawlessing my jump-ins, and I wasn't flawlessing his. So, every single time he did things like, you know, like jump into and to float into jump into. The reason he was winning was because I was trying to duck the early jump in and flawless the late one. When what I should have been doing was, or not flawless the late one, I was trying to duck the early jump in and anti-air the late one. Well, when I should have been doing is I should have been flawlessing pretty much every option he was choosing, because flawless blocking is safe. That's the thing that people don't think about, is like, yeah, you know, they might still be plus here. I think in this case, yeah, Katana's still like +1. But there's no risk here, right? If I try to anti-air, right? Let's say I try to anti-air the early or the late one. Oh well, I'm playing Frost, so let me try stand 1 anti-air, right? If I try to anti-air the late one, I'm gonna get hit. See? But if I try to anti-air the early one, see? When I try to anti-air the early one, I get hit, right? Obviously, like, I have it set to... Actually, it might be better to do this. So, have her do the early one, and have her do the late one. There we go. So, that's me trying to anti-air the early one, right? Because if you anti-air the early one, you hit her in the feet, kinda, right? But if you anti-air the... See, this is me anti-airing the early one, right? So, let me set me to anti-air the early one, right? Now, watch what happens when I try to anti-air the late one. See, I get hit. So, basically, there's like a 3 or almost 4-way mind game. I would argue it's a 3-way. Almost a 2-way, actually, now that I think about it. Because you can OS the late jump kick and the early jump kick. Or in Katana's case, you can OS her late jump in and her early jump in, right? But what you have to start respecting is empty jumps. When you get empty jumped, you have to anti-air with an actual anti-air button. Because there's nothing actually being extended, right? So you can just anti-air normally. Like, you don't even have to use, like, low profiling anti-airs, as you saw here, right? You can, like, straight up just anti-air, right? You can use low profiling. That makes it easier, just in case you miss your timing. But that's an option if your opponent is jumping, just empty jumping, right? Or you can down 2. Down 2 covers all options, but I'll explain that in a minute. So, that's what you can do when they start empty jumping. When they start doing the early jump, they're going to do a late jump kick or early jump kick. You can OS both those, like we said. If Katana does an early jump kick like this, and then does a late one, you just flawless block the late one, and then duck the early one, right? So you duck, and then flawless up 2 up. Oh my gosh, Katana's is even worse, honestly. There we go. So you just flawless the... And I'm definitely gonna edit these out, but... So you flawless the early one, the late one, and duck the early one. Which is extremely scary, you know, because most of us, we want to, like, actually use our anti-air, right? So... And that's another thing, too, is low-profiling anti-airs actually don't always get the... They actually don't always catch every jump kick. So, for example, if Katana does a late one here... Sometimes it'll catch, but if she does like a really early one, sometimes you'll miss. Hold on. I think with Katana, there we go. So sometimes you'll miss, right? Because of the angle or whatever. So, like, just because you have a low profiling anti-air doesn't necessarily mean that you'll anti-air 100% of the time. Now, my recommendation to you is, if you're playing against someone who constantly jumps, you definitely want to choose a character who does have a strong anti-air. So, like, character like Frost, Noob, Katana to an extent, those are going to be good characters to choose if your opponent just loves holding up. I've played several players that, like, that's literally their game plan, so that's a good option, is to choose, you know, characters like Frost and Noob. But anyway, that will cover everything, but as kind of like a base character, your best option is to flawless up to jump-ins, especially cross-ups, because cross-ups, like, it's almost impossible to anti-air a cross-up, honestly. Normally. This was like a really lost sight by OwnerS. I don't know why they didn't think about this. Look at this. Like, you have to like duck and wait for your character to switch sides, right? So, like, the best option is just a flawless up 2. Like, you just kind of realize it's not worth it. You just flawless up 2 is much easier. Or even just flawless the jump in, right? So, like, if she jumps to the other side, You can just false it. It makes it a little bit harder for her to play. She's still plus, you know. Well, oh no, she's -2 there. So that's actually pretty good. But anyway, so those are the options. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, yeah. So if they do like a normal jump in, so like if Frost does like a normal jump in here, this is why it's a 3-way. It's actually like, it's kind of a 3-way, kind of more of a 2-way, because you can OS both jump kicks. But the option here is like once Frost starts, wow, what the heck? I can't even anti-air that. Oh, it whiffs anyway, so it's kind of like the same thing. See, you get a standing 2, and you take your turn back. This is very good for characters that have very plus standing 2s, or standing 3s. Like, I think Frost is pretty plus too. Yeah, it's plus 20. So like, if you have like really plus standing 2s, that's good because you'll basically be able to hit them and take your turn back on an early jump kick, right? So that's kind of like the idea behind it. The whole idea behind everything is you anti-air true jump-ins, like jump-ins that are actually meant to hit you when standing or ducking. You anti-air empty jump down too, so if people are trying to OS your stand 2 flawless block. And then you flawless block the late jump kicks and duck the early jump kicks and take your turn back with stand 2. And I'm going to be honest with you here. If you cannot do this, you are going to be jumped on a lot. Now, your option is to air. Like, you can air to air, but now you're playing the game of, if I air to air and they don't meet me in the air, I get comboed because I'm gonna whiff a jump in normal. Or a jump normal. So, the one thing I just want to say about all of this is NRS, I love MK11. MK11 is probably one of the most balanced Mortal Kombat games I've ever played, and that alone is why I still play it. Yes, there are times I get annoyed with getting fataled, raw fataled. Yes, there are times I get annoyed with getting punished by breakaway. But for the most part, that is very easy to avoid. If you hold the block button more, you're not going to get fataled. Unless you're playing against like Terminator or Sub, right? Like it's not going to happen. If you play more defensive, those things aren't going to happen as much, right? If you see the breakaway coming and you stop your combo short, you're not going to get comboed by breakaway. Like, basically everything in this game is avoidable except jump-ins. And this is why, like, I've started to notice, this is why my neutral is so bad. My neutral is so bad because the whole time I have to spend all my time walking back and making sure I'm not in jump-in range, because everyone, their solution to zoning is to jump at you. And you literally do not have, like, people use jump kicks because they know that you don't really have much of an option. Like, the only option Katana really has that will always cover a jump in is dash back fan toss, which is very slow. So, like, I've been watching Foxy, and the thing I kind of came to a realization of is the reason why Foxy plays this game much more consistent than I do. Like, I'm not saying that there's definitely things I need to improve on, right? I'm not saying that I'm, like, as good as Foxy, but what I am saying is, the thing that I noticed was one of the big components of my Katana gameplay was just simply because I couldn't flawless up 2 jump-ins. Because when people jump at Foxy, they actually have to be scared because he knows how to cover all 3 options. He knows how to use the down 3 anti-air, he knows how to use the stand 1 anti-air, he knows how to flawless the late jump in, how to duck the early one and get a stand 2 punish, or a stand 2 to take his turn back. Like, he knows how to do all that stuff. So, basically, he's able to play a more solid Katana because he's able to cover jump-ins easier. But the issue that I have with all of this is that jump-ins shouldn't be a mind game unless you have some way to alter the arc. Like, the jump-in kicks are probably the most scrubbiest thing that have been ever introduced in Mortal Kombat 11. Like, and I'm saying this playing Cabal, like, I think that this is one of the glaring issues left with the game, in my opinion. I think everything else, if I could ignore everything else and focus on this one thing, I feel like my neutral would naturally just get better, because it'd be so much easier to deal with Scorpion's 4-way option with the jump in, you know? And this is one of the main reasons I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on this type of OSing, because I feel like you can't really play MK11 without being able to do this, because the whole time you just get jumped on. Like, you can't... I mean, the last thing I wanted to talk about is down 2 is the universal option, but I talked about this in the and I talked about this in one of Foxy's streams. Down 2 is not going to prevent people from jumping at you. It's just not... It's not going to happen. It doesn't do enough damage. It's a good solution, but it doesn't do enough damage, you know? Like, you know, the best example that I always use... Let's see, look. That's a pretty good option, right? Like, you can see it, like, gets her from really far. I mean, stand 1's fine, too, but that's just because that's from a distance. So, like, it is a good option, like, don't get me wrong. It will kill jump-ins, but that doesn't stop, like... I've down 2'd someone, them backward roll, and then jump right back at me. Because, like, it's just not, it's not much of a reward. Some characters, they get strong damage for their down 2s. Like, Melina, she's a good example. She gets pretty good damage for her down 2. But Katana doesn't. And it shows in her gameplay, because people just jump straight right back at you, right? And... I don't know. It's just it's a huge combination of things. I mean, the fact that you have to flawless up to jump-ins in general is not really rewarding, because you're spending the defensive and offensive bar to do usually your up to combos don't do as much damage. The game is purposely designed that way so people don't get reversaled all day. But the thing is, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't know. Like, Katana gets maybe 360 off of one flawless up 2 combo, so people are just going to take the up 2 and they're going to move on with their life. They don't really care. And it's even worse when you don't have defensive meter, because let's say you make one mistake, you lose all your defensive meter, now you're just going to get jumped on for eternity until you get your defensive meter back, because, you know, it's a guessing game. And I understand, like, I understand new players think that this might be okay. It's not. It's never... This is definitely an NRS thing. Normally, yeah, you'll have a character that might have more advantage on their jump-ins. Like, Katana's been notorious for that. Scorpion's been notorious for that. But this is like a four-way guess. Like, this happens with every character in the game. And there needs to be a better solution to this, in my opinion. I think this is one of the huge things that get me every time, because I've even started doing, like, what I'll do is while I'm zoning, I'll backdash, but they'll forward dash, jump in, kick. So, like, I'll, like, backdash, right? Like, I'm like, okay, he's gonna jump here. I know he's gonna jump here. So I'll try to backdash and throw a fan, and they'll just forward dash, jump in, kick. And you can't really stop. The only way you can stop that is if you flawless block it. Like, if you try to throw a fan, so you get hit. This happens to me all the time. Like, if you do it early, yeah. But for the most part, you have to duck the early one and flawless the late one. So, I don't know. It's one of those things, like, when you watch high-level play, or when you play against someone who does a lot of jumping, you're gonna see exactly what I mean by the game. Like, the neutral gets kind of just thrown out. You know, and I'm not talking about Jackie jump, Cabal jump, Joker jump, you know, Cassie's B18 advance. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just jumping in general. Like, if you've ever played against someone who will not stop holding up, you will see what I mean. I think if there was one thing I could ask for them to fix in this game, it would be the jumping kicks. If they could fix that one thing, this game would be manageable to play. And what I mean by that is, and yes, there are other issues with the game, but I would be able to deal with those issues much easier than jump-ins. Because as a zoner that wants to play keep out, the only other option I really have is to play Cetrion or Robocop that have better anti-airs. That's it. Or Noob Saibot. It has a better anti-air. Because I cannot play Katana because I'm forced to do this three-way mix-up with jump-ins. So, I don't know. I mean, some people will argue, I guess, like, you could, like, try to down 3 here. But then you got characters like Shang that have really long-reaching jump kicks, so that doesn't really happen as often. And you have to time your down 3. If they do an early jump kick, so if they do like this, you're down 3 whiffs, and they're at advantage because they recover in 16, you recover in 19. So it's just, yeah, it's just a bunch of, ugh, I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. That's all I wanted to talk about. It's really concerning when I start anti-airing with down 3, and then like people's response is always jump and kick. Like it's not to stop jumping, it's to jump more. You know, and my response has been the same way. So I just hope NRS learns from this. I really, really hope they work on their anti-airs, or at least make the anti-airs more rewarding. I really, really, this is the one thing I cannot look past when it comes to MK11. I can look past Fatal Blows, Crushing Blows, all that stuff. I cannot look past the anti-airs, the lack of, the crazy jump-ins, I guess. Not necessarily the lack of anti-airs, but I did give you guys some solutions, so definitely like the video, subscribe for more. I'm going to be talking a little bit more beginner stuff in the future, but you guys have a good day, have fun playing MK11, and thanks for tolerating my butt. Or finish him.